Passing comprehensive immigration reform would also seem to be in the public's interest, but on that issue, the GOP has been conspicuously quiet. Joining me now is a Democratic congressman from Texas's 20th District, Joaquin Castro, and Washington bureau chief for BuzzFeed, John Stanton. Congressman Castro, let me start with you. There's been a lot of talk about what Eric Cantor's defeat portends for immigration reform. But for those of us who remember this debate 2 weeks ago, I mean, were the House Republicans going to do anything on immigration reform anyway this year?
It was very unlikely. After July 31st, the Congress is only in session 26 days for the last 5 months of the year. And so this issue was probably not going anywhere. And certainly after his defeat, because Republicans are perceiving it as having been about immigration, it's almost not going anywhere.
Yeah, but John, Lindsey Graham also won his primary last night, right? And he seems to be, I don't know if he's the outlier or whether he's the bellwether. The fact that Lindsey Graham was able to say the word immigration and talk about reform the day before his primary would certainly seem to signal that certain parts of the GOP are totally fine with the idea of reform.
Well, I think if you look at a statewide level, Republican voters are generally much more willing to go for immigration reform. In a lot of the districts, it's much more difficult. They're carved in such a ways that they get very, very conservative very quickly. So there is that. But I think, the House members look at Eric Cantor and they are looking at this. And I think that they are saying to themselves, not this year, I don't think any of them thought they were going to do it this year, but even in the next Congress, they're not going to want to touch this right now. I think that they feel like it's a third rail issue for them.
Congressman, given the stalemate that we seem to have on Capitol Hill, what is your expectation in terms of this White House and the revised rules that they are expected to hand down?
Well, I think that the White House should move forward and take action. The House of Representatives specifically has shown that it's not willing to take action on comprehensive immigration reform, which an overwhelming majority of Americans support and want the Congress to move on. And so, if the Congress is not going to take action, I think the president should do everything that he can within his executive power to do something on immigration.
Let me ask you a follow-up to that. What would be an appropriate timetable for that action?
Well, as soon as possible, but certainly this summer.
John, in terms of the situation on the border, what has been interesting to me is that both sides, pro-reform advocates, look at that and say it is a colossal failure. We've got to do something about our immigration policy. And conservatives look at it and say this is why we can't have amnesty. When you look at that situation in particular, do you think it aids in particular either side of the debate?
I don't know. I think the politics of it are going to still be a little bit strange to watch, frankly. I mean, Breitbart was one of the outlets that brought this to the attention of the public. So conservatives clearly are finding an interest in it, and I think some of them are turning and saying this is why we can't have amnesty. Some of them do believe that this is also a humanitarian crisis. I think the broader problem, though, on the border is something that it doesn't help either side any more than it is an easy prop every once in a while that they'll point to. But then they'll just go back and sort of retrench and fight each other again.
Congressman Castro, I mean, this is happening in your home state of Texas. Between 2000 and 2010, 7,000 to 8,000 unaccompanied minors a year. In 2014, they're going to be 90,000. It is a staggering number of children. What would you like to see happen to resolve this issue?
Well, the first thing is I saw the pictures along with everyone else of the inhumane conditions in the processing centers. I think the secretary, as he mentioned, should go about working on that. If we saw Americans being kept in that condition in any other country, our nation would be in an uproar about it. And so we shouldn't keep folks that way, even if they're here undocumented. The second thing is we've got to actually do something about passing comprehensive immigration reform. The Congress can't just sit back and act like it's the president's job or they have no responsibility other than complaining on this issue. And then third, the president and the secretary should complete their deportation review and take swift action because the Congress has demonstrated that either it's unable to or unwilling to.
Yeah, John, on the deportation question, you've been on the other side of the border. You've done some great reporting on the deportees. I mean, what's your expectation as far as how aggressive this White House can be on the issue of deportations, given the highly partisan climate around immigration reform?
Well, I mean, they've shown a willingness to do that kind of thing, so they could be very, very aggressive. I would suspect that if they are, they'll probably do it towards the end of the summer so that it is politically advantageous to Democrats in the election. And I do think that regardless, something does need to be done about the deportation. whether it's to Mexico or other parts of Latin America, we're sending people into some very, very bad conditions. And, as I think as a country, that is something we're going to have to struggle with.
Congressman Joaquin Castro and BuzzFeed's John Stanton. Guys, thank you both.
Thank you.